Good morning, my friends and viewers. Although I have used the term morning, but this is the day of morning, शोक का दिन. Particularly, I have just come to deliver a lecture. It is just a tribute to Gandhi, because this is the fateful day, one of the most beautiful creations of 20th century, one of the most beautiful creations of human civilization. And if you are taking in particularist sense, Indian civilization was simply obliterated, erased, rather you can say fell, an assassin's bullet. But still I am using the term morning with some purpose. Although Gandhi died, but long live Gandhi. And this long life will be possible through the efforts of generation, posterity. And we people are having the greater responsibility, particularly you people, because you are coming from the, you can say, latest generation, even you have gone a bit further from X generation to Y generation. So it is very essential, and it is a specific responsibility of my generation to make a bridge between two generations, the Gandhi generations and your generation. So here I have just come with a picture, and my lecture will have the two parts. In the first part, I have to discuss about the last days of Gandhi. The last days are really emotionally charging, touching to Indians, and every Indian should know the story. And the second part is what is the contribution of Gandhi in India and at global level, both, because he was not simply an Indian nationalist, the great nationalist, or rather you can say the father of the nation, but he was a global icon. He gave a particular direction to the global politics and the global way of living as well. So my friends, now, first of all, just look towards my title. Before that, I have to make you clear that both the channels, the students are from Hindi medium, English medium, both. I have to do some level playing field, so that's why some lectures I am just going to deliver, or you can say record, exclusively in English medium, for the help of the students from and viewers from this medium. But here even the students from Hindi medium will not get disheartened, because I will just try to use some specific terms, technical terms, and language is not a big barrier. You people, here the communication of heart is more essential even than the communication through language. At least we people have learned this thing from Gandhi. Now, my issue is, who is Gandhi? I will ask the same question to my audience. Who is Gandhi? They will give the simple reply. Okay, this is the most simple question you have posed to us, because very soon you yourself has revealed the term the father of the nation. You will reply my term, yes, Gandhi is the father of nation. Father of the nation. But here, my student and viewers, both, I will just pose a counter question. Father of the nation is the title which has been accorded by the people, the Indian nationals. Yes, you can say there is some streak of authenticity, or the thing is going to be more authentic for the fact that what is supposed to be his arch rival, Subhash Chandra Bose, so he preferred to coin this title, Father of the Nation. But my friend, still, it is whether it may be Subhash or the other nationalists of India, they have given this title. So I will prefer to give a hint towards the phenomena. Why should we not recall the, the outstanding contribution of Gandhi, for which he was given the title Father of the Nation? So you can say yes, definitely we are supposed to recall the most outstanding achievement of Gandhi in Indian scenario or in course of the national movement of India. I will just pose the second one question. Please recall the outstanding contribution of Gandhi. Once again, you will reply my question. He introduced a new method of politics. He introduced a new method of fighting the protest against the colonial rule, and that was satyagraha and non-violence. But still, I am not going to be much satisfied with the term, because after all, it is the issue of methodology. This is the method one, methodology. But what was the world, I can say, larger outlook behind adopting this method? So here I will prefer this term, which has been particularly coined by a great scholar of India, for whom I am having the special reverence, and that is 𝐾𝐤𝐬𝐬. He has used the term 3D: democracy, diversity, and development. I mean, what way democracy? So democracy is supposed to be a Western import, but Gandhi gave a new meaning to democracy. No, democracy does not lie in towns, cities, government, centralized structure, empire. Democracy lies in village, countryside. It exists in the mind of, thinking of the poorest of the poor, and that is the concept of Sarvodaya. So this is the concept of democracy. He brought the democracy to countryside, to the people. This democracy, I think he has given the most suitable definition to democracy. Democracy lies in village, in the country like India. 7 lakhs villages, And what was the contribution of town and city population at that time? So this is democracy. Then what is diversity? So diversity means in India, if India had to develop and India had to be built as a nation, so India has to recognize its specific character. It is diversified. Because even before much earlier than the advent of Gandhi in India, Britishers were giving a challenge time and again to India and Indians. India can never be a nation. In my so many lectures, I have given a hint towards this phenomena. The statement of John Strachey, the statement of Churchill, the statement of Rudyard Kipling. What is their view? Their view was that India is so diversified, India is so divided, because in their view, diversity is division. Because in Western Europe, they found a nation that was much more uniform, that was, much more centralized, that was smaller in size. So the experience of the nation like India was really unique for them. So that's why they come to the conclusion, and they clearly discounted India as a nation in making. But here, through recognizing the diversified character of India, we can build India as a nation. Do you know here what is the specific contribution of Gandhi? Gandhi has developed a concept of a composite nation. Composite nation means to be an Indian national does not mean that you are supposed to get dissociated from your caste and religious identity. No. This is injustice. you are supposed to remain with your caste and religious identity, but still you are going to form the nation, and you are keeping nation above all these identities. But to be Indian national does not mean that you are expected to be dissociated from this identity. So nation is an idea of getting associated. Idea is getting associated. So far as you are not going to make other people feel that they are the part and parcel of the same life, and you are just going to create a system that is all fit for one size, how can you make a nation? Gandhi here, composite nationalism was most suitable to the diversified character of India. And third one factor is development. So Gandhian concept of development was what? The tears should be wiped out from the eyes of the poorest of the poor. That is Sarvodaya. Although we could not move in this direction sufficiently and to our expectation, here we have definitely faltered. But after all, Gandhi has given this concept. So my friend, this was the idea of nation for Gandhi. And this, in order to promote this idea of nation, Gandhi adopted some methodology. The policy of non-violence was the one of them, which I will just come to this point later. But once again, I am returning to my original question, my students, if you are not getting diverted. My original question is that you will reply, yes, Gandhi, or I will just tell you, Gandhi should be accorded this term, father of the nation, for the specific contribution. He developed a concept of an alternative idea of Indian nation. Okay, that's good. But still you are not going to do complete justice to Gandhi, Gandhi Ji and Gandhism. You will do justice to Gandhi Ji and Gandhism, or Mahatma Gandhi or Saint Gandhi. You will also underline his great contribution at global scale. He was not simply a national leader. He was one of the most beautiful creations of this human civilization. Only then we can do justice to it. Can you imagine? Albert Einstein. He was declared to be the man of 20th century, although even the Gandhi was at that time competing the race along with the American president Franklin D. Roosevelt. And Gandhi deserved this post, but after all, you can say Norwegian committee, which was having a Western wise, and particularly Albert Einstein used to qualify this criteria. He was from a Jew community and finally got settled in USA. So this was accorded to him. But when Albert Einstein himself found this title, so he himself accepted this thing. The most outstanding personality of 20th century is Saint Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. It was his version. And at his 70th birthday, he accorded respect to Gandhi in following terms. That is the very famous, even you people might have heard. He hardly did, or you can say, the coming generation will scarce believe that a man like this in flesh and blood would walk on this earth. मतलब आने वाली पीढ़ी मुश्किल से विश्वास करेगी कि कोई इंसान हार मांस का इस तरह का इंसान जैसा गांधी है वो पृथ्वी पर कभी वॉक किया होगा, पृथ्वी पर चला होगा. ये अल्बर्ट आइंस्टाइन का स्टेटमेंट है गांधी के लिए. I was surprised to know that when after his death, not death is not the appropriate term, after his assassination, the tributes were just showered on from all quarters, from even the quarters of Europe and different continents, from colonies, from metropolitan states, from empire, etc. So a lot of tributes, and you can say the bundle of tributes which we cannot count, hundreds and hundreds. I was really surprised whenever I observed a revolutionary's statement, and that was who? That was Ho Chi Minh. He was a revolutionary from Vietnam. It was that Ho Chi Minh who made the most powerful nation in this world, USA, sit on its knees. मतलब जिसने अमेरिका को घुटने टिकाया था, उस हो ची मिन ने स्टेटमेंट दिया कि although I am a revolutionary, but I am a disciple of Gandhi. And nothing more than that, nothing less than that. न मैं उससे बड़ा हूं, न मैं उससे छोटा, लेकिन मैं बिल्कुल ही गांधी का शिष्य हूं. This statement has been given by whom? One of the great revolutionaries of his time, Ho Chi Minh. He was, finally you can say, he became the head of Vietnam. So my students, that's why, not simply in national scale, but in global scale. But here I am not going to step. I will give you a diagram, and then in national scale and global scale, I will try to discuss the actual contributions of Gandhi. But as I have told you, the lectures would be in two parts because my audience of this generation is not familiar with Gandhi, possibly his last days, how was he assassinated. Here, in order to give you the authenticity, I have brought here even a bundle of books because I am not depending on the single book. Actually, you know, I am having the habit of going through the books, so different sources are available from there. So I will just cite the sources as well, so that you people the authenticity will be there. My statement is having the carrying some evidence as well. This is not simply moving in the sky. Even from UPSC point of view or competitive examination, you will find a very standard question on Gandhi. In 2015 possibly, 15 or 16, I am just recalling there was a question in UPSC General Studies paper. What could have been the nature of Indian freedom without Gandhi? What could have been the nature of Indian freedom without Gandhi? If someone is going to make the statement, did India get freedom without Gandhi? Definitely. Not Gandhi, some other people and a number of people were fighting for the liberation of India. So here the credit should not be given to Gandhi alone. It is a very wrong statement. But if someone is going to ask you what could have been the polity of India without Gandhi, so you are having a lot of things to say in favor of Gandhi. If someone is going to ask you the India could have taken the same nature and character as you find today without Gandhi, so I am sorry to inform you, no, absolutely no. This could not have been the nature of India as you find today. But I am just moving in the first part, the story part, and in the second part, then I will come to contribution part. So the first part, just like a story, you know, Gandhi. Gandhi Ji, Mahatma Gandhi, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, what you prefer to call it, hardly matters. This great man does not, just pleading for any title. You are free to call what you like. Gandhi or Gandhi Ji, he was like you. You people are just preparing for civil services. You having some dream. Even your parents, your family members are having the dream that this guy, this will qualify the examination. That will be, then he will do something for the family as well. Because family is having its own expectation. Apart from that, UPSC may be your own goal, your own objective. But family is also having its own perception, its own calculation, its own expectation. You cannot deny that. The same happens in case of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. His elder brother was playing the role of guardian, and he was sent to England, for their studies. So family was just groaning under the burden of loan. And unfortunately, as a lawyer in India, he could not make any major breakthrough. But finally, in 1893, he found some, a job, a short, and you can say not a long job, permanent job, but, some short of and some specific assignment, you can better to say, to go to South Africa from the side of Dada Abdullah Company. And he, in this hope, he, as a gentleman wearing a suit, he moved to South Africa in the hope that he will just bring and earn some money there. Even family hoped at that time, at least he will bring some money to take out the burden of the loan. But when Gandhi went there, he was moving in a train, you might have heard, from Durban to Pretoria, from Pretoria to Durban. So this whole journey became much eventful, and he was unceremoniously thrown out from this train. If we people could have there, we could have made a compromise with the situation, leave it, it hardly matters. But it touched the basic human identity of Gandhi. Gandhi in the second day, some Indian advertiser, whatever might be the name of the newspaper, I am not recalling completely. But in Indian advertiser, he had just wrote an article, is it Indian? Is it justice? Is it civilization? And then he raised the issue among Indian community. Anyway, after slight hue and cry, the matter subsided. Gandhi was doing his job. Now simply 1 month was left. But in the meantime, this cruel government, this racial government of South Africa, he introduced a very, you can say, objectionable type of law, which could have deprived Indians and many others from the citizenship of Natal province did so. So at that time, there were the very successful merchants, successful businessmen there, but they were still not, they were qualified enough to fight against the government. So Gandhi was a single one lawyer there. So they just requested Gandhi, please just stay for us, at least for 1 month. And Gandhi stayed there in 1894 with this promise, we are going to stay here for 1 month. But can you imagine? He stayed there for 20 years. And whenever they returned from India, he was already at the age of 45. And all sorts of experiments you just find later in India or anywhere in any movement. So his all sorts of methods of protest like satyagraha, non-violence, all evolved in South Africa alone. When we came to India, so already you can say here the liberal politics was almost in Indian National Congress during the liberal phase. It was already, lost its glow. Extremist leadership was almost suppressed. But Gopal Krishna Gokhale was still and Firoz Shah Mehta were the prestigious leaders. Gandhi stayed there, but Gandhi got opportunity for the first time in a village you find here, that is Champaran. Then from Champaran, Khera and Ahmedabad, crossing there, then for the first time he organized this All India movement, Rollout at Satyagraha. And then in 1920, he led the first mass movement. It was not simply the first mass movement in India, but possibly it was the largest mass movement in the world. You can make a point of objection, sir, why I am going to measure this on the world criteria. It is due to the fact that India was the most populous country after China, And in China, there was not the tradition of democracy there. So in one sense, Kuomintang party could not organize any mass movement there. And in the meantime, the Communist Party, which developed there, so this Communist Party seized the power through guerrilla tactics and organizing the peasants secretly. It could never lead a movement. So India is deserving this title for leading the largest mass movement. And here you can say credit should be given to Gandhi. One point of objection is that Gandhi became instrumental behind some of the critics today who is just going to tarnishing the name of Gandhi. The weak position of Gandhi resulted into the partition of India. So here I am giving you the evidence, first of all, that Gandhi became active in Indian politics, particularly at all India level from 1920 onwards. Earlier than that, the minor episodes you will find Champaran Khera Satyagraha, etc. and even All India Rowlatt Satyagraha. But my students, here you should be informed that what you know as the Muslim communalism and Hindu communalism, so both already originated in India much earlier than the advent of Gandhi. Because you know, in 1880s, in 1890s and early, you can say in 1880s, 1890s and early 20s, it was, you know, Wahhabi movement and many other regional Muslim organizations which were just encouraging the idea of, you know, Muslim communalism. And even earlier than that. But at that time, Wahhabis were not a big danger to India. The most formidable danger was the Western educated Muslim leaders like Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. As now India had to move on the path of representative government, so Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, although he was enlightened, but he was not going to bear the idea that Hindus, being the majority in number, could surpass the Muslims in future elections and we will lose the power. So Sir Syed Ahmad Khan started to play the card of modern communalism here. He tried to convince the British authority that Muslim and Hindus are the two qawm, both should be given the equal status. There should not be any decision based on the numerical strength or the election politics. So he just tried to bypass the majority status of Hindus for the petty gain. So it is here this card is being played. After rise of extremism, even the British was going to be a tough towards Indian national movement, and British adopted a new ploy, new game, divide and rule. So there was, you know, finally formation of Muslim League, the Nawab Salimullah, Mohsin ul Mulk. In the meantime, separate electorate that was introduced in 1909 itself. And there was the formation of, you know, an orthodox Muslim or Hindu organization or ultra-nationalist Hindu organization, that is Hindu Mahasabha in 1915 itself. At that time, Gandhi even didn't come to India. Although Gandhi came to India, but he was playing a very passive role at that time, not active role. In 1916, there was the Lucknow Pact. And here the, you know, from the side of Lucknow Pact, the instrumental figures were who? Motilal Nehru and Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So Tilak and Motilal Nehru, mainly Tilak, and from the side of Muslim League Jinnah. So in Lucknow Pact, Congress already accepted separate electorate. And if separate electorate is supposed to be one of the major mistakes of the side of the Congress, so this mistake was already committed before the advent of Gandhi. Yes, you can bring a charge against Gandhi. At the time of non-cooperation movement, Gandhi raised the Khilafat issue, and it is true. It was going to vitiate Indian politics in future, because in the era of Khilafat, because at the time of Khilafat, after all, Khilafat was that you can say an extra national issue, extra territorial issue of India. It has to happen in Turkey. And it is on this basis we are going to launch a movement in India. So in any way we are legitimizing the religious issue in politics. So that is going to establish a wrong precedent in Indian politics. I am going to accept this. But my students and viewers, keep one thing in your mind. Here intention was not bad. Gandhi, in fact, it was, you might have heard a term, divide and rule. I myself have coined a counter word from the side of Gandhi. Yet Gandhi was quite perplexed with the continuous British policy of divide and rule. So Gandhi just tried to counter the British policy of divide and rule with what? With unite and fight. Hindu and Muslims should be united and fight against the British. Although it was a miscalculation on his side, because during this period, you know, it is supposed that orthodox Muslim elements became more active in politics, and some Muslim leaders with secular faith like Jinnah, so they just you can say came on the margin. So this charge is normally brought against Gandhi. I am going to accept this. But my students and viewers, I am giving you the counter view here. Jinnah was not alienated due to this factor कि Gandhi raised the Khilafat issue. Jinnah was alienated for the same fear from whom Sir Syed Ahmad Khan had been suffering. कि Jinnah was a leader with constitutional method like the moderate leaders. He believed in drawing room politics, opening the files in the office and the room, personal room, discussing the politics in the drawing room, preparing the very, you can say, good petitions in the very lofty language and very good handwriting and presenting to the government. So this type of politics, which had earlier been started by the moderate, Jinnah was in habit of playing this sort of card. And Gandhi, when he started the mass movement, it was going to transform whole politics in India. So it had to downsize the leaders like Jinnah in future. It's not simply downsize Jinnah. It downsized even other leaders. Other leaders, that is Motilal Nehru, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, he didn't survive longer, but so far he was. And Lala Lajpat Rai, then Madan Mohan Malviya, Gopal Krishna Gokhale and Firoz Shah Mehta just passed away before Gandhi. So all the leaders were downsized. What does it mean? It means that even Jinnah had to meet the same fate. But other leaders were not having the option because after all they didn't belong to the minority community. They didn't belong to minority community, but Jinnah was having the freedom to play the minority card in India. So Jinnah gradually got alienated and moved to communal politics. So this was the case, Then in whole 1920s, when Swarajist movement was going on, Chittaranjan Das and many other made an attempt. So Gandhi was at that time after withdrawal of the non-cooperation movement, then Gandhi moved to this village reconstruction program between 1924 to 1929. Once again, he reappeared in Lahore session and supported Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and the proposal of Purna Swaraj in 1929. Then, once again, civil disobedience movement in 1930 he started. He continued up to 1932. Then he moved to, after 1932, he moved to this, particularly after 1934, seriously, So for a long time, he was having some, you can say, verbal exchanges and some sort of conversation with Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar on Harijan issue or on the issue of the depressed class people. And then he just started a Harijan movement in India. So once again got involved into village reconstruction program. When in 1935, the Indian Council Bill was introduced in India. Gandhi was nowhere. In 1937, the Congress fought elections. Gandhi was involved into the village reconstruction program. At that time, even he was not technically enjoying the primary membership of the Congress. Then, Gandhi returned to the active politics in 1939 when the India was declared to be a belligerent nation on the behalf of the British and forcefully made to carry the Second World War. So Gandhi just reappeared on the scene and the Congress was prepared for an all India movement. And then you have heard about this Quit India movement in 1942, in which not simply Gandhi led, but Gandhi insisted Congress to launch an all India movement and Gandhi played a very pivotal role, Then once again he was jailed. But my friend, here I have to make this point clear. After Khilafat, on which point I am blaming Gandhi for that. Up for partition, already Muslim communalism had already, you can say, expanded and developed, And in order to justify the Muslim communalism, even the Hindu communalism was giving a reply. So whole national movement was caught up into this dilemma. And there was very difficult and there was, a major challenge how to make a distinction between the nationalism and communalism, and very difficult to find out who was true national and who was communal. From 1937 onwards, when particularly you can say Hindu Mahasabha, Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, here Muslim League, Jinnah, here 𝐾𝐞𝐚𝐫 organization, a Muslim League formed and militia. So all were just giving emphasis over the ultra politics at that time. The Hindu Mahasabha and RSS were having the tough attitude to the Muslims, and they have particularly, giving a new doctrine, and that is called cultural nationalism. In India, there should not be the consideration of India should be Akhand Bharat, and there should be all Indians are one and the same. There should not be any discrimination between Indians and Indians. There should not be the concept like majority and minority. So this is a good thing. If it could have been accepted by minority community, so this sort of ideology should be celebrated. इसमें बुराई क्या है? अगर माइनॉरिटी ग्रुप खुद कह रहा है कि ठीक है, हम बराबर होकर रहना चाहते हैं, इससे अच्छी बात क्या थी? लेकिन हम इसको कैसे इग्नोर कर सकते हैं कि 25% पॉपुलेशन ऑफ इंडिया, दैट वाज almost 25% at that time, if 23, 25, whatever may be, we are not going to be entangled into the data. So whatever may be the proportion, but point is that कि हम इन 25% या 23% पॉपुलेशन को अगर उनको एक्सेप्टेबल नहीं है, तो हम कैसे मनवा सकते हैं कि हाँ, हम सभी यूनिफॉर्म रहे और आपकी आइडेंटिटी, माइनॉरिटी आइडेंटिटी की जरूरत नहीं है? वो चीख के बोले थे, दे वर क्राइंग, दे वर क्रिएटिंग प्रेशर ओवर द गवर्नमेंट कि नो, वी नीड सेफ्टी, एंड गवर्नमेंट, देयर वाज द एलियन गवर्नमेंट एंड इट वाज प्लेइंग द माइनॉरिटी कार्ड इन इंडिया. तो सिर्फ हमारे ये कह देने से कि पूरी तरह से हम सभी एक है, माइनॉरिटी मेजॉरिटी का कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं और अखंड भारत रहेगा, ये तो सभी चाहते थे. इट वाज सेम गांधी हु यूज्ड टू मेक ए स्टेटमेंट at the time कि this partition of India had to take place on my dead body. This was the version given by Gandhi at that time. But same Gandhi accepted this Mountbatten plan and partition. Why? Who is accountable for that? I think that the history and serious textbooks should be studied. Then the things would resurface. Here my point is in Quit India movement. How many party participated? Yes, I'm just going to prove it that Gandhian leadership was wrong for time being. What was alternative? Who was ready to give alternatives to Indian? Leftist? The so-called Communist Party, which had accepted partition much earlier. Not in that sense. On Adhikari formula in 1920s itself, it almost accepted partition. Almost. India should be the country of different nationalities on the model of Soviet Russia. The rightist nationalist, the so-called Hindu organizations. What blueprint they were having for the unified India? I'm not favoring any side. I'm giving the story and I'm giving with the evidence, So what was the situation at that time? Every citizen should know in India, history should compulsorily be, not all history at least, the history of national movement should be studied to this generation, because after all, this is the very hard-earned freedom. And we should evaluate this freedom, what is this value of freedom? So in this way, this was the situation at that time, no one was having the blueprint, whatever doing that was being done by Gandhi and Congress. In the elections of 1937, not to speak of the Communist Party, the so-called Hindu Mahasabha, Muslim League, fared very poorly. Not this Hindu Mahasabha just fared and performed more poorly even than Muslim League, So this was the case at that time. Even the parties could fight the elections, they could go to the people. Then why Gandhi was enjoying such a big popularity? There is, there is a theory, actor versus audience theory. Actor versus audience theory means which actor is going to be how much great. That should not be decided on the basis what quality of actor he is, but that is the basis what is the level of acceptance among the audience. What is the level of acceptance of this actor among audience, this is the basis of deciding the quality of acting and quality of actor. The same is happening in case of Gandhi. Then finally, after Quit India movement, a new factor appeared, which is beyond the control of India, The new factor was international players. After Second World War, Cold War started. And in case of Cold War, what happened? In Cold War, America and Britain were playing the villainous role that at least northwest part of India should be separated from India, which is the future Pakistan. And that will just work as the base of Americans and the Western powers in fighting against Russians in Afghanistan in future. So another game plan was going there. How Gandhi was accountable here? Because international player was there, Muslim communalism was there, Hindu communalism was there. Muslims were not coming, Muslim League and Jinnah was quite adamant, they were not coming to the negotiating table. Earlier, the Jinnah was in the minority position in 1937. He was not enjoying the support of all the Muslims in India. In Punjab, there was the non-Muslim League government under Sikandar Hayat Khan, Unionist Party. In Bengal, another non-Muslim government under the leadership of Fazlul Haq. Even in Sindh. So Jinnah was not having the grip over he was the Muslim leader of all India stature. But he was not having the grip over the provinces. But once the Hindu communalism created the equal pressure from other side, so Jinnah got the opportunity and Jinnah tried to make a propaganda in the favor that if you have to save yourself, so come to us for rescue. And Jinnah threatened the provincial Muslim governments or the non-league governments कि the Congress is planning to topple you. सेंटर में कांग्रेस गवर्नमेंट होगी, आप लोग ज्यादा खुश मत होइए कि आप लोग प्रोविंस में अपना अपना गवर्नमेंट चला लेंगे, कांग्रेस सेंटर में होगी, कांग्रेस जब चाहेगी आपकी गवर्नमेंट को गिरा देगी. So in this way, gradually you can say the provincial leadership just succumbed to the pressure of Jinnah and Jinnah became a leader of higher stature in India. So how far Gandhi was accountable behind that? Gandhi he adopted all sorts of methods to pacify Jinnah, to pacify League, to avert partition. Sometime even he quarreled with Nehru, Patel on the issue. He declared that no, I would never accept partition. But he was playing after all the responsible role. For your kind information, it was much earlier than Mountbatten Plan. Mountbatten Plan appeared when? Just recall. In March 1947. In March, he just came to India. The Mountbatten Plan appeared in May 1947. And May 1947, and it was finally, accepted up to July 1947 from London or the British Parliament. But for your kind information, my students and viewers, this bloodbath and Hindu-Muslim riots started already in August 1946 from Calcutta killing. And from Calcutta killing, it is for the fact that Suhrawardi, the government of Suhrawardi, the Muslim League government, when Jinnah gave the slogan direct action on 16th of August, Jinnah put whole India to hostage. Either you have to succumb to my demand of partition or the India had to play the bloodbath. This was the situation. In Calcutta, killing started. From Calcutta, it moved to Bombay quickly because Hindu reacted there. In Calcutta killing, Suhrawardi tried to eliminate Hindus and Hindu labor from Bihar. So Bombay reacted quickly. Then it moved to Munger district of Bihar, in present Bhagalpur and Munger both. And then finally it moved to Noakhali. And in Noakhali, the Hindus there was the mass killing of Hindus. So Gandhi rushed to Noakhali. You people should know, you may be informed, or I will request all of the audience to at least watch once the Gandhi movie by Richard Attenborough, because he tried to represent the truth as much as possible. As much as. And in spite of the fact that it was, a picture, a movie but still he tried to maintain the reality or the real story as far as possible. So that's why I am requesting all the viewers and students to watch this movie compulsorily. So here you find he just went to Noakhali, and surprisingly, he stopped there the riots. At that time, the Congress leadership was busy in dealing with the British because it was the moment of crisis. Jinnah was playing his own game, how to ensure and take as much as larger part as possible in the form of Pakistan on the so-called these Hindu organizations. So they were creating pressure, and you can say giving reply to the politics of hatred organized by Muslim League and Muslim militia and the party like 𝐾𝐸𝐬𝐬. So all were roaming in the street as the bloodthirsty, animals. So it was the case at that time. The 𝐾𝐸𝐬𝐬 and the Muslim League militia were just moving and roaming in the street as just like the bloodthirsty animals. So it was the situation, and Gandhi was at that time stopped these riots. And even Mountbatten had to accept that he was the one-man boundary force, because 50,000 soldiers were busy in Punjab to put a check over Hindu-Muslim riots, but they didn't get success, and Gandhi alone stopped the riots at Noakhali. And then on 15th of August, when the celebration of independence was going on in Delhi, and Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was giving his historical speech, "We are traced with destiny," at that time Gandhi was sleeping at Calcutta peacefully, because all his enthusiasm for freedom had already evaporated after partition. And then he was here, and then he moved to Calcutta. And on 15th at Calcutta, from Noakhali he moved to Calcutta. And at Calcutta here, you should know, in presence of Gandhi, you will find here the rare scene of fraternization between Hindus and Muslims on the fateful day of 15th August 1947. मतलब दोनों मिलकर गलवाही डाल के स्वतंत्रता मना रहे थे. Then finally, on 1st September and 2nd September, some disturbances started in Calcutta, and once again Gandhi started fast unto death. But the situation very quickly removed, and all peace returned there. So Gandhi decided to move to Punjab, because in Punjab the bloodbath was going on. And he was also planning to move to Pakistan, where the Hindus there was the mass killing of Hindus in Punjab. That side of Punjab. In this side of Punjab, the Muslims were targeted. And here in Delhi, the riots started. In Delhi, under the nose of the government, Delhi government. Mountbatten, Patel, Nehru, all were trying to douse the communal fire, but they didn't get success. So Gandhi first moved on 8th September in Delhi. He was planning to move to Punjab, but the condition in Delhi so vitiated, he would not tolerate. He was the lone person who was moving here and there. Sometime in Noakhali, sometime in Delhi. Punjab he could not move because fate did not accept this decision, and in the meantime he fell due to assassins' fire and bullet. So here he was in Delhi, so he observed a very ugly scene. Muslims were almost put to hostage. They could not open their shops. They could not move on the road fearlessly. They were being suppressed, and many Muslims even left their home. They were taking refuge in Purana Kila, the tomb of 𝐾𝐸𝐬𝐬, etc. And Delhi, which used to be the symbol of Indo-Islamic culture, for that the Delhi was having a long pride. So it lost all its earlier glow, and there was the very ugly scene of communal disharmony. Gandhi still recalled one thing. Gandhi recalled at that time, on 1915, when Gandhi did visit Delhi at that time, So there was a Muslim leader, his name was 𝐾𝐸𝐴𝐺 Khan. Gandhi has mentioned about him. He used to provide free medicines at the free treatment to, as he was Hakim, means a physician, used to provide treatment to Hindus and Muslims free of cost without making any discrimination. So that Delhi he was recalling, but Delhi had lost its earlier face. Gandhi stayed at Birla Bhavan, although usually he used to stay at scavengers village, मतलब वो जो गरीबों की बस्ती होती थी उसमें रहते थे, but this time he decided to stay at Birla Bhavan so that in Birla Bhavan the Hindus, Muslims and many other leaders and sufferers could make an easy contact with him. And when he observed the scene, so he was so grieved and so much moved by the pathetic scene in Delhi. On 12th of December, he declared, I am going to observe the fast unto death. So, a streak of fear and concern just spread to the different parts of Delhi leadership, from Jawaharlal Nehru, Patel, Maulana Azad, all were moved, even Mountbatten, because Gandhi was after an old-aged person now, and his age didn't allow the fast to observe time and again. But he was adamant, and even Nehru tried to persuade him, but from 30th of December he started his fast. He started his fast and fast unto death, and he declared that so far as all peace is not going to prevail in Delhi, you will not stop this fast, and we will not break the fast. Fast was going on. In the meantime, his health deteriorated. Even doctor, his personal physician, so he conveyed to the leadership, to the government, that his kidney is not functioning well and urea may spread in his blood. So there is danger on his life. So now all were helpless. My students, here I am having the different version, because a story is the one, but the authors is different. That is Durga Das. Durga Das is a very famous and classical book, The Curtain to Nehru and After. This book is supposed to be a very classical book. And Durga Das was giving the insider's view, because he was very close to Gandhi and the Congress leadership. He was associated with journalism, and he used to participate in Gandhi's prayer meeting on every evening. Unfortunately, on that fateful day, he could not join because he had to take interview from Vallabhbhai Patel. This was a different story. So he could not participate. Otherwise, he was the very usual and common participant in this prayer meeting. So he has given his own version. Next one, there is this one. Although title is not clear here because I have lost the cover page. Unfortunately, I have purchased this book much earlier in 2001 itself. And this is The Proudest Day is the name. And the book is by David Fisher. It is also supposed to be an authentic book. How much authentic it is, you can simply imagine. In 2001, after its publication, possibly in 2002, in UPPCS prelims examination, there was a question, what is Proudest Day? Choice number A book by David Fisher. Choice number B, it was a Pokhran explosion, Pokhran 2. So many students selected Pokhran 2. It can be the proudest day of India, but it is for about this book, This is the authenticity. And here my point is, some books I am having the Kinder version. Although here, I am giving the name of the book in order to make it more authentic evidence. One book I have just gone through, Postmodern Gandhi and Other Essays. That is from Rudolph, you can say Rudolph and Rudolph. Lloyd Rudolph and Susan Rudolph. This is the very famous book. And because in Postmodern Gandhi is projected as the postmodern thinker as well. Why Gandhi is projected as a postmodern thinker, I will make you clear. Just. And one is the David Hardy man. David Hardiman, basically he was a subaltern scholar and he was a Gandhi lover, and he has written a lot of books. So this is supposed to be one of the most authentic book. And one famous book you might have heard about, that is Ramchand Guha. Ramchand Guha is he has published trilogy, and his trilogy is the Gandhi, the years that changed the world. But one book at the time of Gandhi, this one is before Gandhi, India before Gandhi, one is India after Gandhi. So India after Gandhi was first one. No, India before Gandhi was first one, and then India after Gandhi, and then this Ramchand Guha in 2020, the Gandhi, the years that changed the world. So from different sources, some is the very close to Gandhi, even some British scholar I have just taken, Ramchand Guha, maybe a Gandhi lover. So I have not simply depending on his version, from different version I am depending. So at that time you can say, and one book, here this book I have just gone through in 2 and 3 days earlier. That is Gandhi's Assassin. It has just been published with the author, The Making of Nathuram Godse and His Idea of India. The Making of Nathuram Godse and His Idea of India, Dhirendra Kumar Jha. This is the author, Dhirendra Kumar Jha. This book actually, Dhirendra, although from journalistic background, but he has remained to be a regular author, and he has published even some other books earlier. And here I find much authenticity because bibliography he has presented, so very authentic sources he has mentioned. So I can believe in his version of a story. And here about Nathuram Godse has given too many interesting informations which I was not having earlier. Ki Nathuram, what was and why his, you can say, Ramchand Godse was earlier named Nathuram, why the name Nathuram was given to him. And particularly when I have observed the whole life of Nathuram Godse, so I came to realize that Nathuram Godse was not true killer. True killer was the idea of India. Nathuram Godse represents those who were having the idea of India. Another idea of India. तो उनका idea of India क्या था? तो पूरे इंडियंस एक हों, यहाँ इंडिया में एक खास यूनिफॉर्मिटी हो, कोई मेजॉरिटी और माइनॉरिटी नहीं हो, सभी एक यूनिफाइड इंडिया हो, और कहीं ना कहीं उसमें हिंदू डोमिनेंस हो. क्या यह संभव है? उस समय था. एक बुक मैं और भी देखना चाहता, लेकिन अभी मुझे टाइम मिलेगा तो मैं उसको देखूंगा और मैं आप लोगों से आइडिया शेयर करूंगा. मुझे बुक बहुत इंप्रेसिव लगता, बट प्रॉब्लम इज दैट कि दिस बुक आई हैव नॉट गॉन थ्रू. आई हैव जस्ट द किंडर वर्जन, एंड दिस किंडर वर्जन इज वीर सावरकर, द मैन हु कुड हैव प्रिवेंटेड पार्टीशन. एंड द बुक हैज बीन पब्लिश्ड बाय whom? Uday Mahurkar. Uday Mahurkar is the author, and second author is Chirayu Pandit. I have not heard the name of the author earlier, so it is a new name for me. But I am curious about the fact that how Veer Savarkar might have prevented. Because earlier you can say Rajmohan Gandhi, I have gone through. So Rajmohan Gandhi has told a very appropriate thing. He told that in fact up to 1940s, मतलब 1940 के दशक तक, the situation vitiated so much so, what was the alternative to partition? So he has raised the issue कि how could the partition might be averted. There were the three situations, you can say. एक situation ये हो सकता है, उसने कहा, उन्होंने कहा एक situation ये हो सकता है कि Muslim League could have been appeased to the extent कि he could have been ready for averting partition. The Muslim could have been given such a major concession, the Muslim League finally accepted a unified India. तो हम मुस्लिम लीग को क्या कंसेशन दे सकते थे जो वह इंडिया की पार्टीशन की मांग को छोड़ देता? एक यह तरीका हो सकता था. दूसरा तरीका हो सकता था कि द ब्रिटिश माइट हैव बीन रेडी टू गिव फ्रीडम टू इंडिया अर्लियर देन ही शुड हैव डिपार्टेड. मतलब ब्रिटिश माइट हैव डिपार्टेड व्हाइल गिविंग फ्रीडम टू इंडिया और गिविंग फ्रीडम टू यूनिफाइड इंडिया. तो सबसे बड़ा चक्कर तो ये था कि ब्रिटिश को ये कहा जाता, गांधी जी बार बार राजी कर रहे थे, आप जाइए, हम लोग देख लेंगे, हम जिन्ना साहब बैठकर फैसला कर लेंगे. But British was not going to ready for that. Ki, no, we will just bring you to the negotiating table and you will come to the conclusion. Only then we can depart from India. Then what is the solution? And third, जो थोड़ा अनकॉमन है एंड हो सकता है बहुत लोगों को अच्छा लगे, कि थर्ड सोल्यूशन माइट बी कि द मुस्लिम लीग शुड बी फोर्सफुली contained within the boundary of India. You have to accept the unified India, but it might have resulted into just a civil war, because after all it was having a very larger population. क्या solution था? So I think you will just observe the things case by case, everything would be clear. And then finally, even Gandhi was on the fast. So there are the two different versions. According to Proudest Day of David Fisher, it was Maulana Azad who came to Gandhi and tried to persuade him कि Bapu, come to your sense. In fact, the complete peace can never return to India again. So please make me clear कि how minimum criteria we can fulfill and you will just break your fast. So Gandhi gave 4 conditions according to him. 1, the Muslims should be allowed to move on the road freely. There should not be any interruption by Hindus. The 176 mosques which had been captured by Hindus, so this would have been returned to Muslims, and the Muslims should be given the freedom to observe their own mode of worship there. And third one, there was actually and on every year, there was some celebration on the, Sufi shrine, and the Sufi saint was Bakhtiyar Kaki. So on their shrine, some celebration had to take place at Mehrauli, and some Hindu organizations threatened the Muslims there कि we were not allowed to do that. So Gandhi also just ensured कि they should be allowed. And the fourth and the last one, he told, the Pakistan should be return the fund. This is a new thing for you. What is the matter of fund for Pakistan? The matter of fund for Pakistan is that, in fact, when there was the division of fund between India and Pakistan, when the British was returning from India and the vacating India, so British was actually at that time owed some money to India, because British was already indebted in course of the Second World War. So British was having some liability, so this liability amount was returned to India. This amount had to be divided between the Indian government and Pakistani government. So in share of Pakistani government, there was possibly 40 million pound sterling. But as Pakistan invaded Kashmir, so India withheld the amount. Particularly Vallabhbhai Patel and the finance minister Shanmughan Chetty was there at that time. So withheld the amount. Nehru and Mountbatten were not in favor. So Gandhi, in the simple goodwill gesture, it is not human, it is against the basic honesty, this amount should be given to Pakistan. So all the 4 conditions were fulfilled. Even Mountbatten wrote in written form, yes, you will transfer the amount, and the Gandhi broke this fast on 18th of January. 18th of January, So finally, you will come to know when he was just broke the fast on 18th of December. So finally, it was the thing, particularly the issue of the giving the fund, that irritated some Hindu organizations. And as it has given the information, this Proudest Day, such organizations just particularly assigned some plot against Gandhi to 4 persons: Madan Lal Pahwa, Vishnu Karkare, Narayan Apte, and Nathuram Godse. So Madan Lal Pahwa was a refugee from the side of Pakistan, and he was having some hatred against Gandhi. Possibly he was taught, he was given the bad lesson for this, all the mischievous act and the pathetic condition of Hindus in Punjab and Pakistan, Gandhi's policy was accountable. But I have made you clear, in what way Gandhi's policy was accountable, I don't know. I simply know he was the lone voice when all leaders were, you can say, just busy here and there. Gandhi was alone fighting to protect the humanity. He saved Muslims, Hindus in Bangla, you can say Bengal, particularly, he saved the Hindus there in Calcutta, and even you can say earlier than Calcutta, you may recall Noakhali. And same Gandhi just protected and defended Muslims in Delhi, and he was planning to go to Pakistan with the due permission of Pakistani authority to rehabilitate there the Hindus and Sikhs and save them and to give them the solace. So it was Gandhi, the lone figure in the whole of national movement, who was really working for refugees and fighting for saving humanity. Today we can observe the Partition Horror Remembrance Day. So if you are observing the Partition Horror Remembrance Day, so at least remember one figure, and that is Gandhi, who saved it, who saved the people, who saved the humanity. So this is the case you will just come to know. Up now, the same happened particularly about the fund. So Hindu organizations were much active. Madan Lal Pahwa made an attempt possibly on 14th of January, but he didn't get success. And finally, Nathuram, Godse. And this episode, all people know. So these are the last days of Gandhi. And this is the whole career of Gandhi. But up now, I will take 15 minutes to talk about the contributions of Gandhi. Now, if we are not going to mention about the specific contribution, so I think the whole discussion would remain incomplete. So this new generation should know even about his specific contribution. If I am going to ask you what is his contribution, two things you people will just reply. And on two issues, you are possibly having the consensus. One issue is he invented a new method of protest, that is the policy of satyagraha and non-violence. And the second one factor you will mention, definitely, I am confident, he introduced the mass movement in India. He could just link the masses to the basic Congress program, and they could lead the mass movement in India. So to credit. But many things are there, many secrets are there, which I just try to reveal for you people. Just here you can see contributions of Gandhi. Contributions of Gandhi. I think you people not have any objection why I am not using the term Gandhi Ji. I am having the greater respect for him. But such iconic personality does not pleading for any title. He is above the title. So you should not hear I am going to undermine him or I am having the less respect for him. It is impossible. I am basically, even yesterday, I have once again watched this Gandhi movie. And I was moved particularly by the scene at Noakhali and at some many other places. And that's why I have recommended that every audience should just watch the Gandhi movie. Many secret and hidden traits of his character would reveal. One observe here, national. On national scene. So yes, we are just going to take as the common one. One is organizing the mass movement. Yes, that is the contribution. Very common. Organizing mass movement. That is the one contribution. Mass movement. Second one, you are just going to observe here, and that is alternative method of protest. Alternative method of protest. This is the second one you people are familiar with. That is the policy of satyagraha and non-violence. That is the alternative method of protest. Then moving to third one. As the third one you can mention here, the very important, to change the meaning of politics. Change the meaning of politics. Meaning of politics. In what way? So earlier it was supposed that politics is the job of a very clever man, an opportunist. Politics means you need some acumen to befool others, to manipulate others. So it was the meaning of politics. Who was the ideal, or you can say the main ideological protagonist of this so-called politics? Do you know? Earlier it was declared that it was from Machiavelli. He's the author of The Prince. So he, in true sense, and revealed the true nature of politics. So he was a first realist political thinker. Later in 1905, when there was the discovery of Arthashastra in India, so Chanakya was supposed to be his predecessor in this regard, and Chanakya was supposed to be born 2000 or 2 millennium BC, 2 millennium years earlier than this Machiavelli. So Chanakya was accorded this status, But Gandhi changed the complete meaning. No. He tried to bridge between politics and morality, politics and value system, value-based politics. He proved to the world that no, politics is not opportunism. It is not manipulation. Politics and morality both are just intrinsically related to each other. Without morality, politics is dangerous. Politics is devastating. So, change the meaning of politics all over the world, Gandhi Ji. I am not talking he is supposed to be a saint. You will heard about so many saints. You have heard about that Gandhi Ji was not simply such a thinker. Emerson you are talking about, Thoreau you are talking about. They were concerned about the upliftment of the common people, the lowest of the lower. It is true. But they didn't participate in politics. There was a different domain. This is the domain of social reformers, this is the domain of saints, and this is the domain of politicians. But he brought a bridge among the different domains. So this is the contribution of Gandhi that should not be discounted. And one more. More is the most dangerous weapon. Most dangerous weapon. Most dangerous weapon. A Gandhian type of politics was the most dangerous weapon. Even the imperialist power was not having, here you will come to know that the imperialist power was not having any reply to it. Here I can cite the example. Here I am citing some example. Take the case of civil disobedience movement. You will find that Lalitko was at that time Viceroy of India. And civil disobedience movement was going on. You might have heard about Salt Satyagraha. So Gandhi trained the volunteers that police were just thronging the lathis, the police were just wielding the lathis and beating them mercilessly, but they were not even raising their hand to protect themselves. So this sort of very rarest of the rare type of suppression was going on. In the meantime, an American journalist, Miller, revealed this fact and just published the news to outside world. So now even in British Parliament the questioning started, and then the British government made a contact with her Viceroy Lalitko and tried to inquire what is happening in India. What are you doing? The whole image of the government worldwide is going to be tarnished. The innocent and the armless people are being beaten badly by the police. So Lalitko, I have just given the wrong name. Please let me make a correction. That was not Lalitko, Lord Irwin. So Lord Irwin was so perplexed. Lord Irwin just actually rubbing his head, he inquired from his secretary, "Do you find any news in which a Satyagrahi has counter-attacked on the police?" His secretary told, "Sorry, sir, I have not so far received such a news." So Irwin was simply rubbing his forehead, because there is no way out. So after beating with the lathi, one lathi, the government was losing its image and Gandhi was gaining his image. Gandhi tried to impart the people, give a lesson to the people कि British are making the claim कि we are the sympathizers of Indians, we are the माई-बाप of Indians. This is the British way of being a माई-बाप. अगर ये आपके sympathizers है तो थोड़ा सा salt तो बहुत, नमक तो बहुत ही प्राइमरी चीज है, लाइफ के लिए इतना आवश्यक है. Why are not they allowing you to make the salt? If are they not allowing you to make the salt, तो how can they be your sympathizer? तो ये जो चीज गांधी का है मोस्ट डेंजरस वेपन, इसका एंटीडोट नहीं था इंपीरियलिज्म के पास. इंपीरियलिज्म का तो सीधा हिसाब था, प्रोटेस्ट करिए सप्रेस करेगा, आप स्टोन चलाइए खुश होगा क्योंकि उसको गोली चलाने की अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलेगी. लेकिन आप कह रहे हैं कि आप हमें मारिए, हम कुछ नहीं, लेकिन हम वह नहीं करेंगे जो आप बोल रहे हैं. सो दिस सॉर्ट ऑफ वेपन द इंपीरियलिस्ट गवर्नमेंट वाज नॉट फैमिलियर विथ. उसके पास इसका जवाब ही नहीं था. सो दिस इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग. तो दिस वन. अब ऑन ग्लोबल स्केल, बिकॉज आई एम नॉट हैविंग द स्पेस टू चेंजिंग द पीस. ग्लोबल स्केल, non-violence is equally important. Non-violence, yeah, you can say alternative method. In short, non-violence or alternative method, satyagraha and non-violence, alternative method of protest. This was popularized in different quarters of the world and many others followers. Albert Luthuli in South Africa, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King in South Africa, all had to follow this method. This was the alternative method and the imperialist power was helpless. भाई आप क्या करेंगे? आप एक आदमी इंसान कह रहा है कि मैं आप पर वार नहीं करूंगा, आप करिए, और आपके साथ मीक एंड सबमिसिव खड़ा है, आप किस मोरालिटी से उस पर डंडे चलाएंगे? अब इंपीरियलिस्ट पावर को ये पता ही नहीं था कि हाउ टू डील विद दोज पीपल. दिस इज द वन फैक्टर. सेकेंड वन फैक्टर, true alternative to capitalism. अब here you know when capitalism started and capitalism tried to pose that we are the only solution to the world economic problem and capitalism is the best model which has so far developed by human civilization. Capitalism tried to prove it. But Karl Marx, there was the rise of socialism and particularly the hardcore socialism, Karl Marx, and Karl Marx countered this view. No. And he made an attack on capitalism and declared that the capitalist system is basically an unjust system. मतलब जो capitalist model है वह it was inherently unjust. मतलब यह अन्यायपूर्ण पद्धति है. ये कार्ल मार्क्स ने सिद्ध किया. But Karl Marx could not give a true fight to capitalism. Karl Marx had to work within the same industrial culture. अगर इंडस्ट्रियलिज्म है तो आप कैपिटलिज्म को मिटा नहीं सकेंगे, क्योंकि the associated diseases of capitalism would remain there. If associated diseases are there, what is the associated disease you can say? One is industrialism. Next one, and capitalism का what is the associated disease? Industrialism. Next one, competition. And next one, individualism. Karl Marx tried to give a reply to competition and individualism through a socialistic model, but he could not give a reply to industrialism. What happened? Just like the capitalist, you can say, just like the staunch capitalist of the time, he also came to believe that industrialization would solve the world problem. Even Karl Marx didn't notice. A time will come that nature will refuse to cooperate with the human being and natural resources would be depleted. And that will create the ecological environmental problem. Karl Marx was unaware of the fact. So he met his failure. It was at that time Gandhi raised the issue कि no. So he gave the civilizational challenge to West कि आपका जीने का तरीका ही गलत है, दुनिया खतरे में पड़ जाएगी, आप नहीं समझ रहे. Why are you promoting production? यहां पर एक इसकी बुराई है, प्रोडक्शन एंड कंजम्पशन. आप प्रोडक्शन और कंजम्पशन को क्यों बढ़ा रहे हैं? You are promoting production and consumption. You are just promoting the production and consumption. What will happen? The resources will be depleted. So better to cut the production and try to live simple life. Cut the consumption so that the specific requirement of every creature on the earth would be fulfilled. जो उसका मिनिमम रिक्वायरमेंट है उसको फुलफिल होना चाहिए सभी को, इसलिए कुछ लोगों को कंजम्पशन कम करना होगा. This was the view of Gandhi. And today that proved. And the last one, he is supposed to be a great environmentalist. He pleaded for ecology and environment at that time when this problem didn't resurface in the world. For the first time, I am just recalling in 1960s, when Silent Spring, Carlson, he had just composed this text, Silent Spring. So this has raised the environmental issue in the world. But Gandhi drew the attention of the world much earlier. In his Hindu Swaraj, he had just mentioned this thing. So my point is, and he also drawn the attention of the people to the detrimental impact of westernization and Western civilization. So in course of time, his prophecy came true. So that's why he is even characterized as a postmodernist thinker by Rudolf and Rudolf. So my students and viewers, I have drawn the attention to certain traits and certain contributions to Gandhi, to Indian and world civilization. I have also tried to draw the attention of you people that before forming any idea about him, you are supposed to have the proper knowledge about what he has done. And I hope that your generation, that is the Facebook generation and netizens, so they will do better justice to Gandhi and try to evaluate Gandhi on the basis of truth. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next lecture.